Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Clues, Cues and Reviews. Before we get into that, hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving. It's the 1st of December, so those Christmas lists better be ready. I'm sure there's plenty of shopping for you folks to do. Better get on it because Christmas is upon us very, very soon and we don't want to be making those last minute shops because you know you'll be spending some crazy ass money to get that present. So if you got some present to be buying, you better be buying it. Anyway, hopefully you bought some good stuff with your Cyber Monday and your Black Friday sales. If there were some sales on some manga, I hope you bought some of those as well. But we'll get to Christmas in many other episodes to come. For now, let's get into reviewing some manga. And this video is about Black Clover. But before getting to Black Clover, One Piece was a bit emotional. I know. I have to do reviews. I really want to do this review, but I need to catch up and do a proper review of the whole thing. It was a really good chapter, and I think it would be, I guess, I would lessen me if I didn't do a proper review. So I will get around to it eventually. Rest assured, I am reading all these mangas. I'm just not reviewing them, and I will be doing that very soon. That being said, let's get into this review. So, we'll talk about this chapter, but I want to mention something really quickly. I find myself doing this in my videos. Now, I don't edit it out because I like to keep things flowing in a regular thing. But I always find myself looking down. And I'll tell you why I look down. You see, I make notes. Now, you probably can't see this properly because of lighting and stuff like that. But stuff that happens, stuff that's kind of highlighted in certain areas of key points, I make note of this chapter. Now, I apologize. I will try my best not to look down. So I'll turn the notes over. And let's get talking. So Black Clover, to be fair, not a lot happens. Some things do happen that are really interesting, but there's a lot of subtleties in there that's getting me thinking. So what I'll do is I'll talk about the more standard things that happen in this chapter, and then I'll leave the debate at the end for you to kind of think about. I'll throw questions out. I might not know the answer to, or I might think I know the answer, but I'll let your minds go wild and you can make up your own minds. Okay, so we know that basically this royal guard, these royal knights are basically attacking this, this warehouse, this headquarters, this base that belongs to the Midnight Eye of the Sun, son of the Midnight Eye, Midnight Sun. I call him Midnight Eye. It's just one of the original, I guess, half-assed translations, so I just stick with that. It probably is Son of the Midnight Eye or something like that. That being said, they're attacking this base. Now, what we see in this chapter, for all intents and purposes, is a lot of people rampaging. So you see, Nozel, Mr. Silver doing his thing, the people with him. You see Kirsch doing his thing. You see that Luke Voltaire is doing his thing. You see Yuno's there as well, and you see Melioleona doing her thing. So the first thing is rampaging. Everything is rampaging. Everyone is rampaging. Chaos is among us. It's crazy. And then we start to see the cogs turning. There are certain things that I mentioned that lead to the end that ultimately gets me thinking. But remember I said last chapter that ultimately there's going to be this chaos. There's going to be opportunities for light to take advantage and start to be other people and do the things to confuse people. I didn't think it would happen straight away, and I didn't think he would do the thing with Asta so quickly and be in Melioleona's kind of area and her territory while she was fighting so quickly, but he went in. So we saw a few different things going on. Like I said, Nozel was rampaging and everything else was going on. But then we get to Melioleona. I'll cut things out on purpose because I want to talk about those. But Melioleona rampages, and all of a sudden there's two Astas. Now, she literally just attacks both of them. Asta can cancel it out. But then we see that this other person that's supposed to be Asta does an aqua attack to balance out the fire. And then he does light healing. And it's Liar. And it's like, well, it was obvious that was going to happen, but I just didn't think it would happen here. I thought he maybe would have attacked the other members, because Melioleona ultimately seems like the captain that's stronger than captains. The real leader here, the strong one that even Yami respects to a certain degree, though he doesn't show it. but he went in there, so that this guy's not messing about. He's really going in for the kill. And then we find out something, and I really liked this, that it was made so obvious. So if you think about Liar's ability is to copy any magic. We've seen that he used water, he even uses Yami's attack, he uses Light's attack. But we find out that this has a limit. It's an OP ability, but the author specifically put in a kind of weakness, because if you didn't put that limit or that cap to this ability, ultimately Liar's ability would be second to none, because he could basically copy everybody's ability. And what is this cap? It's not necessarily as strong as the original, and I think that only makes sense because if you're having different kind of elements and abilities and stuff like that, you ultimately are spreading your talent thin. And I guess the comeuppance or the side effect to this that kind of holds you back is the fact that you're not as effective. And I really like that that's been explained, because he's essentially got multiple elements, and the fact that he can, do all that is really OP, but then he can't necessarily go full power. I like this because what this also does is it shows that Yami technically is in his element is stronger than Liar element to element, but they would cancel each other out because they're the same element. But it's Liar's ability to adapt and use these skills against the weaker elements, balancing each other like fire and water, and his knowledge of those kind of combinations that makes him dangerous. Now we see at the end that he throws Yami Slash at Melioleona, and she goes, yeah, his had more effect, and blows it back, and then he gives this essentially this attack, the Brachim attack, which essentially means white hot arm, and it ends there, and it's like, what? We're going to get this big fight straight away. So that's the chapter. There's a bit of murmuring and me muttering through all that, but that's basically the chapter. Now, remember how I said there's always something that doesn't seem quite right about this. We get more of this thing that makes me think this is a trap, something is not quite right. The whole thing with, like, I asked the question in the sense of sealing. So when he was fighting last time, he essentially rampaged, and they had to put the seal back on, and it took all three of the white, the third eye to seal him. Now, bearing in mind 2 have been defeated, 1 is left. Who put that original seal on him before the Midnight Eye? What happens now? There's only 1 person that can seal him. What if he's defeated? Who does the sealing? There's just something missing there that I really like to find out more about. Now, that's the first thing I want to touch on. I wanted to say that there is something quite wrong. So what do we get from this chapter that really kind of hits that tone or hits that note in a very specific way? So there's a few things that I mentioned here. Number 1, there's a mentioning here in this chapter where people are going through doing their thing, and they're saying something about how the walls are changing and it just seems to get deeper. So for me, that tells me that somebody is manipulating the area, the location, the way this base is, to get certain people to certain places for a certain cause. What is this cause? We don't know. Who is doing it? We don't know. What is this all about? Now, my money is on that Siren character, that can do the rock manipulating that showed on the map in the first place. A lot of people speculate about this. A lot of people are like, that guy's the one that's going to betray them. And I did some of my own reading. So what I essentially did, because I like to do this kind of thing, is I spent all of last weekend rereading all of Black Clover, and there was that part where the invasion took place, and around about that time in those chapters where there was a character from the Golden Dawn and he was fixing the tablets, and it looked like, from a kind of a dimensional point of view, looking at the shading and the drawing and the figure, it did look like Serum. So I think he's manipulating because he does have this rock ability. The end game we don't know, so we need to find out if it really is him. B, what's the goal, what's the game, what's the end result. So that's the first thing. The second thing I want to touch on was when people were getting defeated, the bad people, the Midnight Eye, they said it doesn't matter if you take us down now, we are only going to get reborn in our true forms. Now, that could just be the person who's essentially so deluded, so kind of brainwashed into doing what these people want them to do, that they truly believe that they are going to be reborn, they're going to be, they're going to come back and they're going to be more powerful than ever. At the same time, there adds that little bit of doubt to that, as well as, reborn in our true forms really stands out to me. And it makes me think of the story that Light told about the people that were loved by Mana, they got defeated, or they got killed, or they got betrayed, and this tablet. So I think that there is going to be a degree of reborn or rebirth, so to speak, and essentially it's going to be to do with that tablet. And what that tablet's going to do is bring back the people that were loved by Mana, so these elves, so to speak. And I think that this belief of being reborn may not just be brainwashing. It may have something to do with brainwashing, and I think it's to do with the idea of implanting of memories, implanting of energy, implanting of consciousness. So I think what's happened is someone has the ability to plant a memory into a person, or hide a memory from a person, to manipulate the minds of people in a way so that they can get to a goal. Or they've taken the memories of these people that died, using them as pawns right now so they can resurrect the bodies to put the consciousness back into these bodies. So I think some of these members might actually be the consciousness of the people that were loved by Mana at one point or another. For some reason, they're so radical. It's kind of weird that every single person here has been hurt, or they've been destroyed by the Clover Kingdom and the elitism and stuff like that, and they all joined this crew. It's just weird to me that that's the case. You'd think there'd be more people. I know there's a whole idea of like-minded people come together and all that kind of stuff for a common goal, but there's just something amiss with it. It's just so coincidental that's the case. I think there's an idea of mind manipulation there. To further this point, there was a point in the chapter where we see Yuno, and Yuno's hearing some voices, and then we see this kind of thought where basically Asta's like, we're going to destroy everybody and do all this thing, bring it on, I've got my thoughts. But then we see him after, and he isn't doing a thing, and neither is Zora, because Melioleona is rampaging. So if Melioleona is rampaging, where are they getting the ability to get so excited? And I think what this is again people whispering, the Chinese whispers, the devil whispering in your ears. Someone is essentially manipulating the thoughts and I guess energies of people by having these kind of suggestions that certain things are happening in other places. And yeah, it's okay for me to be that way, just to get something. I think it's all manipulation. Long story short, I think that people are getting manipulated in one way or another, whether it's by design, changing the rock formations to get them to go to a certain place, by these implanted thoughts for the bad people, and again, this kind of whispers to get people to act and behave in a certain way. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure Luke does not need any encouragement to rampage. I'm just saying there's something else there that doesn't quite add up. But that is pretty much my chapter review. They were my thoughts at the end. Let me know in the comment section below what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.